Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something truly magical, an art form that turned giant stone buildings into incredible storybooks, using basically just sunshine and colored glass. So let's dive in.
Seriously, forget about paper and ink for a minute. Just imagine walking into a huge, soaring cathedral, looking up and seeing these amazing stories playing out all across the walls. Not with words, but with sunlight just pouring through beautiful, colorful glass. Well, that's exactly what people did in the Middle Ages.
So, what was the big deal with these windows? I mean, why go to all that trouble? To get that, we have to understand how people back then thought about light itself. Okay, I want you to picture a medieval cathedral. It's this massive building made of super thick stone walls, and it only has a few pretty small windows. Before electricity, it would have been pretty dark and gloomy inside, right? They needed a way to let the light in. So what did they do? They came up with something absolutely brilliant: stained glass. You can think of it like a giant, super intricate puzzle. Artists would cut all these little pieces of colored glass, arrange them into amazing pictures, and then hold the whole thing together with thin strips of lead. And there was this one guy, a French abbot named Sugar, who had this totally game-changing idea. He didn't just want some light in his church. No, he wanted to absolutely flood the place with it. You see, his big idea came from this really powerful belief people had back then, that light, actual sunlight, was divine. It was like a little piece of heaven touching the earth. So when that sunlight streamed through these colorful windows, it wasn't just about seeing better. It was meant to feel like you were standing in this sacred, heavenly glow. But here's the thing. These windows weren't just about looking pretty. Oh no. They had a really important job to do for everyone in the community.
Just think about it for a second. Back in the Middle Ages, almost nobody knew how to read. Books were incredibly rare and super expensive. So how in the world were ordinary people supposed to learn all the important stories from the Bible?
Well, that's where the windows came in. They created a different kind of Bible. On one hand, you had the book Bible, full of words that only a few people could read. But on the other hand, you had the window Bible, just bursting with vibrant pictures that told the exact same stories for everyone to see. And because they were for everybody, rich or poor, these windows got this really cool nickname, the poor man's Bible. They were basically like these huge, glowing comic books, sharing all the most important stories right there on the walls of the church. So what kind of stories are we talking about here? Well, it was pretty much an encyclopedia of their entire world, all told in glass. Of course, you'd get all the big Bible stories, the life of Jesus and tales from the Old Testament, but that's not all. You'd also see these incredible adventures of the saints, pictures of brave knights and queens, even the signs of the zodiac. And they didn't stop there. They showed regular people doing their jobs and, get this, even mysterious monsters and creatures like griffins. The whole world was right there in the glass. Okay, so making these giant, super detailed pictures out of tiny pieces of glass, that was not easy, and it was definitely not cheap. So that brings up a pretty big question. Who paid for all this? Well, the answer is that it wasn't just one person. It was a real team effort. Pretty much everyone pitched in, from the most powerful king all the way down to the local workers. So first, you'd have your kings and queens, right? The really powerful and rich rulers. They would often pay for a massive window to show off how religious and, how powerful and generous they were. And it wasn't just royalty. Rich families in the town would sponsor window too. It was a nice way to give a gift to the church and also make sure their family name was remembered for a long time. But what's really cool is that it wasn't just the rich folks. You had these groups of workers called guilds. Think of them like teams, the Baker's Guild or the Weaver's Guild. They'd all pool their money together to pay for a window, and maybe it would show them at work or have a picture of their special patron saint. The fact that we can still see any of these windows today is kind of a miracle, because their journey through history has been, pretty rough. See, back in medieval times, churches all over Europe were just filled with these amazing story windows. But then came a period called the Reformation. It was a time of big religious arguments, and sadly, some people decided the pictures in the windows were wrong. A lot of them, and I mean a lot, were smashed to pieces. It's really tragic. So the windows we have left today, they're the survivors.
And now we have experts who work really hard to protect them so we can all keep learning from their stories.
And that's really what's so amazing about this art form, isn't it? It's ancient, but it's still all about telling stories with light and color, which kind of makes you wonder, if you were going to design a story window for today to capture something important about our time, what story would you tell?